preaching on the Old Testament lesson that Lee read from Proverbs 31. But before I do that, I want to set the context, or set a context a little bit. The Baptist Faith and Message is the official document of the Southern Baptist Convention that states their belief on various topics. And one of the topics is the family. And this is not the whole thing, this is just an excerpt. But I want to read part of it with you. A husband is to love his wife as Christ loved the church. He has the God-given responsibility to provide for, to protect, and to lead his family. A wife is to submit herself graciously to the servant leadership of her husband. She, being in the image of God, is her husband, and thus equal to him, has the God-given responsibility to respect her husband and to serve as his helper in managing the household and nurturing the next generation. Now, the first thing I want to point out is that they don't tell us how somebody can be both submissive and equal. I just don't think you can put those two things together. And then the other thing is, of course, it's semi-obvious that they're advocating for the traditional role of the man as the breadwinner and the wife as the stay-at-home housemaker. It says it's the man's responsibility to provide for his family, and the wife is to be his helper, managing the household and nurturing the next generation. Now, what I find interesting about that is they are thinking of this as the traditional family arrangement. But if you know some history, it's not that traditional. This goes back basically to the Industrial Revolution and the Victorian era. And of course, in the lower classes, men, women, and children were working in the factories. But for the middle class, there was a job for the husband to go to work all day and then come back in the evening. And that's what they're looking for. But in biblical times, through the Middle Ages, in the Renaissance, and up into the Enlightenment, that's not how most families were arranged. They either lived on a farm or a ranch, and husband and wife together did the chores and the work on the farm, and husband and wife together raised the children. If you read the book of Proverbs, most of it is written from the perspective of a father giving guidance to his son about the right way to live. There was no division of who had responsibility for parenthood and raising the children. Now, there are a lot of Bible verses that people use to promote the idea that women, they don't want to use the word inferior, but must be submissive to their husband and usually by implication other men as well. This passage I just read from the Baptist Faith Message is largely based on Ephesians 5:22 and 23. Wives, be subject to your husbands as you are to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, just as Christ is the head of the church, the body of which he is the Savior. There's other passages. 1 Corinthians 14:34 says, women should be silent in the churches, for they are not permitted to speak, but should be subordinate, as the law also says. 1 Timothy 2:12. I permit no woman to teach or have authority over a man. She is to keep silent. Now, you read those verses, and it all sounds clear-cut. No debate, no discussion. And a lot of people assume that the Bible is completely consistent from beginning to end, that if you read somewhere like women should keep silent, there'll be nothing anywhere in the Bible to contradict that statement. But the Bible is far more complex and interesting interesting than that. The Bible speaks with many voices. And there are many debates. One reason we have liberal and conservative Christians who both claim the Bible as their authority is both can find biblical passages to support their theories, their beliefs. For example, since we're just quoting verses out of context, Ephesians 5:21, the verse immediately before the part about wives speaking to husbands says, submit to one another. And somehow that never gets drawn into the discussion. But there's other verses that contradict the things I just read about the women keeping silent in the church. 1 Corinthians 11:5 says that any woman who prays or prophesies, preaching, with her head veiled disgraces her head. But the assumption is that women will be praying and preaching in church. Now, the most likely contradiction is some scribe later on in history added words to Paul's letter because he just was too conservative and didn't like this newfangled thing of women preaching in the church. Oh, the part about not letting women have authority over a man. We turn to Judges 4:4. We read this. At that time, Deborah, a prophetess, wife of Methodist, she's a prophet, I think she's speaking for God, wife of Methodist, was judging Israel. And judge was a ruler, not someone in the courts. A ruler. She was a ruler, a judge over all of Israel. And unless Israel had no men at that time, she had authority over men. So, I don't know, I guess Deborah hadn't read the passage out of Timothy. So now with that background, I want to look at today's scripture and go through it a piece at a time and look at some of the details fairly closely, because this is, I believe, a biblical voice that speaks from a different perspective than the idea that a wife should submit to her husband, that a wife should stay at home, that a wife shouldn't speak. So, Proverbs 31, read 10 through 15 verse. A capable wife who can find. She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. She is like the ships of the merchant. She brings her food from far away. She rises while it is still night and provides food for her household and task for her servant girls. Okay, now, so far, this does sound a bit like the Baptist statement. She manages her household. She provides food for her family. She looks after them. She works hard. She burns the midnight oil. Almost says that. But I want to point out it says she supervises and provides tasks for her servant girls. So this capable wife has got to be fairly upper middle class. Not many of us are running around with servants today. This is where it gets really interesting to me. Verses 16 and 17. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. She girds herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She's an entrepreneur. She's developing real estate. She buys a piece of land, and then she opens a winery. I'm sure there was a tasting bar. There had to be. Winery about a tasting bar. And I don't think she was doing this from home over the internet. I think she had to be out in the field. She had to be out there working. And she's an entrepreneur. 18 through 20. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable. Still in that entrepreneur, her merchandise. Maybe that's the wine, maybe it's something else. Maybe we'll find out in a minute. But her merchandise is profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night. She puts her hand to the distaff and her hands on the spindle. She opens her hand to the poor and reaches out her hands to the needy. So he is an entrepreneur. She's hard working. But she takes time to remember that everyone is not as fortunate as she is. And she cares for the poor. 21 through 24. She is not afraid for her household when it snows, for all her household are clothed in crimson. She makes herself coverings. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the city gates, taking his seats among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them. She supplies the merchants with sashes. That's the merchandise that is profitable. I mean, she's an entrepreneur. She's got her fingers in a little bit of everything. Land, winery, clothier, multitasking. That's an entrepreneur. They don't just stick to one thing. They're always looking for something. She's out there in the business. But at the same time, able to take care of her family. Then to continue. Strength and dignity are her clothing. She laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household, and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her happy. Blessed is the more traditional translation. Her husband too, and he praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain. The woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her a share in the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the city gates. She is a woman of character that does not use charm and good luck, good looks to make her way in the world. Her character, her smarts, and her heart. Now, when I read this passage, what I worry about is not that it is too conservative. I worry about it's too little. I've read women read this and I think, oh man, I'm supposed to be doing all that? I can't do all that. Well, who knows? If you had women servants, maybe you could too. But the point is that in this passage, I see nothing about the wife being submissive to her husband. What I see is a relationship based on mutual respect, mutual concern, shared values of hard work, family, honesty, and character. And it's mutual respect, mutual submission. See, this really, to me, there's a larger issue here. And that is, how do we read the Bible? Do we read the Bible as a book of law or as a book of grace? Do we read the Bible and we apply the narrowest, most specific laws that we can and say that we have to follow these? Or do we look at the overall theme of the Bible, which is that God is no respecter of persons, that God makes no distinction, that every human being is created in the image of God, that every human being is made alive by the very breath, the very Spirit of God, and that all are equal in the eyes of God. And that it is God's desire that we treat each as brother and sister. See, if you interpret the Bible as a law book, it doesn't just mean women have to be silent in church and listen to their husbands. It means slavery is accepted. At the Civil War, the people in the South defended slavery had verse after verse after verse in the Bible to support slavery. And they're there. Not the only verse the abolitionists could quote was, "You shall love your neighbor as yourself." So which one has more weight? The law that says slavery is okay, or the principle that we should treat our neighbor as ourselves? If we interpret the Bible as a law book, if you have a disrespectful child, you know what you're supposed to do? Take them out and have the village stone them to death. See, if you want to interpret the Bible as a law book, to me it seems like you can't pick and choose which laws you're going to follow. I believe the Bible is intended that God gives it to us as a book of grace. That it is the witness of God's love in the world. A witness of God's love in the church and God's love for the world through the church. And we give weight to what extends dignity to all people. I want to close with a familiar passage. It's Galatians 3:24 through 26. 26 through 28. This is grace, not law. For in Christ Jesus, you are all children of God through faith. As many of you as were baptized into Christ have clothed yourselves with Christ. There is no longer Jew or Greek. There is no longer slave or free. There is no longer male and female. For all of you are one in Christ Jesus. This is the word of God for the people of God.